Last week, what we did was we looked at the section and the plan and constructing. If you remember, we had this little guy that we were describing both in plan and in section. And so you saw, I'm going to flip through some files here, but we got basically to this sort of plan here with an elevation laid out to one side of it. At the very end, we got, a little bit of a preview. Oh, come back. Of something that looked like this, with possibly these lines removed. So I sent out this file, and what I added here was a section because that's going to become very important in the start of this exercise. So what I'm going to do today is we are going to look at a bunch of different screens. So we're going to look at the cube and look at projecting that three-dimensionally, because that's going to be one of the next things you do over the weekend, and which will relate to the Carpenter Center information as well. And then we'll dive into the actual description of the Carpenter Center with some pointers as to developing that in 3D, also pointers in developing the plan and section of that. Also in this handout, I have a list of commands that are a growing list of commands that you can reference. The ones in bold are recent ones added that I might refer to explicitly in this tutorial. And then at the end are the plot style table settings, the CTB file settings for the different CTBs. So you'll notice there's one for the cube, one for the Carpenter Center. I'm also going to conduct this tutorial a little bit differently than last time. It's going to be more of a demonstration, so feel free to follow or try and keep up with it as much as you can. But if you get lost along the way, that's not a big deal. Part of this is for you just to see the process and then be able to go back to the film later. So I want to dive into the cube right now and finish that up. So we all had this great lecture that Adam put together, which described the differences between the different kind of three-dimensional projections. The one we're going to be focusing on is the planimetric projection. So one of the points that was made during that lecture was an essential part of that is taking the plan, rotating it 45 degrees or 30 degrees, and then pulling up the lines from that. The other critical element to this, as we get further down, was the use of the section in that projection. So here, as we flip down, the section becomes a critical tool by which all the other dimensions are taken. So I'm going to start with that spirit in mind, and I'm going to take my plan and I'm going to copy it. So I've zoomed and panned around here, and I'm just going to make a crossing window over my plan information. I'm going to type CO for copy, hit spacebar. I'm going to pick a point, and I'm going to move this plan over. I might even do it. I like to copy things by increments that I can go back and forth with. So I'm going to copy this 24 inches over. I'd like to go a little bit further, so now I'm going to move this another 12 inches. Now I'm going to move this up to where my section is. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to select it again. I'm going to hit M, spacebar for move. And now one of the things you can see is this little green square lighting up. That is my object snap. We talked a little bit about that last time. And that's telling me that it's snapping to an endpoint. So that's good news. That helps me align elements. Now the X means it's snapping to an intersection as well. So you want to pay attention to which snaps you're getting. Another thing you'll notice as I move my cursor around, you can see it's kind of fluid here, but when I drift towards the vertical, it snaps right in place. That's called a polar snap or polar tracking. And the way you set that is if you press F10, that turns it off. And if you press F10, it turns it on. So I'll move this again. I'm going to select it, type M, spacebar. Now you can see when I get to the middle, it's not locking into place as well. So I'm going to turn my polar snap back on. Another helpful snap that I'm just going to cover right now is if I go down here, you'll see it's object snap tracking. And what that lets me do, I'll show it in more detail later, or you'll see it come in handy later. But if I want to move something, say, in alignment with a different line, I can touch that line. AutoCAD knows that I'm trying to snap to it or line with it. And you see a little green line trailing off, and you see how that's staying horizontal with it. So it's a nice kind of automatic alignment with other objects. But for purposes here, I'm going to do a 45-degree planimetric projection. So I'm going to, what I just did, I selected my object. I type RO spacebar for rotate. Now I need to pick a center of rotation, so I click there. Now I need to tell it a certain number of degrees to rotate. I want it to rotate 45 degrees. Now you see, it's going to rotate. I didn't want it to rotate in that direction. I actually want to rotate the other way. So actually, let me think about this. I'm looking at the drawing. I'm going to look back at my little example here. That might actually be the right rotation for me. Yeah, so that I lucked out there. But say it didn't rotate correctly, and these guys are annoying. You can just erase those. So I just selected them and typed E for erase. But I'm going to rotate this back. And so another way I can rotate, I can type RO spacebar, and now I click that point, and now you can see it's rotating dynamically, right? I can just move my cursor, and it's going to rotate. So I can actually rotate it this way if I want, or if I want to rotate it to a certain point back to where it was before, I can use a reference line. So to reference, I type R, and I pick one point that I want to rotate around. I pick the next point that I'm going to use as the arm to rotate with, and then that I will rotate back to a reference point, and that just rotates it back in place. So I'm going to, because another way I could rotate, if I rotated and I typed in -45, I could rotate the other way. So rotate is a good command. So I'm going to rotate back to where I was, which I think if I do 90, that'll get me there. So that's the orientation I want. Now I want to get this point here aligned with the level line of the section. So I'm going to take this guy, select him, M for move, pick my endpoint, and I'm going to move right up and snap to this line here, which is my datum line. So I know this is going to be my height for my cube. And so I kind of launched into this, and I didn't really set up any layers. So right now I'm drafting on layer 0. After I get this kind of scaffold of 3D lines together, we'll talk about line weight, and I'll set up some layers so we can parse out the different lines into the appropriate line types. But right now, this is my height for my cube. So again, what I roughly want it to look like is something like this, or if we go back to our 3D model, something roughly like that. So I go back to my file here. Now I'm just going to start by drawing the kind of body of the overall 6 by 6 inch cube. So I'm going to draw my x-axis. I already drew my z-axis. I'm going to draw my y-axis. Now here's a cool command. So you can see that I can't really draw precisely in the y direction that I want to. So I'm going to type line, L, and I'm going to pick that point. I'm going to drag across here. And now I'm going to type EX for extend, and I'm going to press my space bar. I'm going to press a line, or pick a line that I want to extend to. Then I'm going to select the line I want to, whoops, so I'll do that again. EX, extend, select the line I want to extend to. Then I press space bar again, and then I press the line I want to extend. So now I have my X and Y and Z axis. I will, just for clarity's sake, fill in the rest of the cube by copying. So what I'm doing now is I'm selecting my line. I type CO for copy, space bar, select the bottom line up again. And now I'm going to type line, and I'm going to fill in this line. Type line again, fill in that line. And then I'm going to copy these guys in place, CO there, and I copy this guy. See, what I'm redoing that because when I select my line and I go to copy, you see how that little right angle sign, that little green guy is? That's picking a perpendicular point to that line. I don't want to do that. I actually want to pick an end point. So you see the difference between the different snaps as they go up? You'll get used to that, but you want the green box because that means an end point. So this is my imaginary box that I'm drafting my cube in. So an important thing, a very, 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 very important thing that we need to be super careful about when we're doing these cubes, and I need you guys to pay attention for this point, is that you don't, so my thickness, the thickness of this wall is 3/16 of an inch. If I offset, well, I'm going to show you the right way to do it, and I'm going to show you the wrong way to do it. So the right way to do it is I pick that line, I type CO for copy, and I copy it in the direction that I want to go, and I copy it the right dimension, which is 3/16. So now that line is in the right place. Another way I could do it, because I have my plan here, is I could just pick that line and simply copy it into place. That's fine too. Now, what people sometimes do, and you can see it gives it the right thickness. So what people will sometimes do, and this is the wrong way, these planimetric projections are not the place to do offsets. So if I offset 3/16, bad things will happen. You see that is not the right thickness, right? So you do not want all your drawing happens in the x direction or the y direction. So you need to be very, very, very careful about that. All right, so I'm going to copy this line to get the thickness of this guy. And then now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my section information. So this datum line picks up that cross line there. And I'm going to pick this guy, and I'm going to copy him into place as well. So copy. And so you can see copy is a really great command for this exercise. Now, I know it also kind of, if we look back at my shape, I know that it wraps up here. So what I did is I just drew this edge, and I set up this edge here. But the guy also wraps up like that. So I take this line, and I draw up to there. And I could also copy there. Now I also want to make sure I get the thickness here. I'm going to zoom in a little more here. So I want to get that thickness. So I'm going to copy, or I can, this line here, and that represents the 3/16 thickness. So I copy that into place. So now you can see I'm starting to build, and that's an important thing to do too. Some people forget to give their materials thickness. And so really I can take these lines and keep copying them around now to get the appropriate shape. And so now I copy that there. I copy this guy here. And now I need this little sliver here, so I draw a line. And I'm going to go a little quickly here because I want to move us along. So here's a funny part. I don't really have a good line to get this edge here, right? So I'm going to pick this guy. And notice how I'm picking also. So that I'm doing that right to left crossing box for this. So I don't need to even pick the whole line. Just by doing that and getting that line in there, I've picked it. So now this is what I'm talking about, is I'm going to copy this in the proper direction along my y-axis. I'm going to copy it 3/16 of an inch, and there we go. So this is all very helpful. It gives me a good, it starts to give me a good three-dimensional scaffold of lines, but there's no line weight. I got a couple other things I need to take care of here. So I'll copy this guy over here, and then I will close this guy off here with a couple of lines. So this is, I think, pretty much what I need. I need one more thing here. So I'm going to draw a little smidgen of a line here to get that line weight in. Yeah, so now I have my little, say, grid of line work. I'm going to save that file because that's what we're supposed to do. And I will save it as in class. Now I'm going to copy this over because I like to keep a lot of versions of things around. So here's that guy over there. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up some layers that I've given you in the handout here. There's 4 layers. And again, I'm going to do this pretty quickly because we went over this before. So actually, they're already set up in this file. Okay, so they're already in the file that I gave you, which is great. So we don't need to go through that step. So here are what I'm going to do now is I'm going to actually draw in the line that I want to show for the line weight. And I'm just going to go back quickly to this slide here, and ask you to just briefly note again the perimeter line weight is pretty dark, and what I actually really want to look at in a little more detail is this little moment here. So you see how the whole idea with the axon line weights is whatever has space behind it is a dark line. If it has a solid piece of material on either side of it, then it's a lighter line. So this is a little tricky moment that sometimes people need a little bit of time to figure out, that there's actually space on the other side of this line, even though there's also material right behind it. So that dark edge helps us understand that this is a continuous edge there. So that's just a little bit of line weight discussion. So I'm going to go to my 3D edge line weight. That's going to be my heaviest line weight. That's going to be my edges. And I'm going to do a polyline. So let me back up. So polyline is I'm going to type PL spacebar. Now a polyline is great because it's a single continuous entity, and I can go and pick all these little points, and it's all one object. So if I need to change the associations of that object, it's all one thing. I don't have to pick individual lines. So that's really handy. So I'm going to do my what I did, if I go back to my 3D model here, is I just outlined this contour here in space. That is this line here that I just did. So I'm going to use that same idea, and I'm going to pick. And now notice here, I didn't pick down here. I picked here because that's where it meets the other thickness of material. And I'm going to go around the perimeter of my object here. And you see my computer has just been not super psyched about giving me nice fluid drafting environment. We're going to have to sit down and have a little talk, my computer and I. And it's not going to be pretty, so I'm not going to do that here in front of you guys. I'm just going to continue closing this line here. All right, so there we go. Now I'm going to do something here. I'm going to show you another command. First I'm going to save, because that's important. Now this command is called layer isolate, and it's a really, really, really handy command. So these are your layer tools. One tool I spoke about a little bit last week was this guy, make objects layer current. So I can pick this thing with the little ball. I can pick that line. Now edge light has become my current layer, not what I want, so I'm going to go back to here. Layer isolate, it's like checking a layer out of a library. So I go to my AutoCAD librarian, Mr. or Mrs. AutoCAD librarian, can I please have the 3D edge layer for a little while? Why, sure, James, you've been a very good library patron. So I pick that, and look, I have it all to myself. No one else can have that right now. So that's very good to just see what that layer is doing, or if I want to edit objects on that layer. Now I'm like, okay, I've had a great time with that layer. It's time for it to go back to the library so other people can enjoy it. So I go layer unisolate. So back and forth. That's a good little command to have. So I'm going to actually, because I want to wrap this little part of the tutorial up, I'm just going to finish up with my line weights. This is my corner line weight. Hopefully we've gone into a little bit of that with you in studio. And I see I didn't switch my, that's not the right one. 3D corner, there you are. And so this is when things are coming closer to me, that's kind of the next step down in line weight. And you can see I'm changing layers by just doing that. So PL, so this is all polyline, PL, spacebar, point, shoot and click. I'm going to hit that guy, this guy here, whoops. So here's a cool thing about polyline. I miss my mark. So I see these little blue grips. I can pick that guy, drag it back into place there. Nice. Now it's all cleaned up. So I have those lines. So now, oh, I missed one more. This guy here. Oh, and see, I really, my computer and I are just, yeah, I don't know, guys, what's going on. It was a beautiful thing for a long time. So I'm also missing something else. I need to get a line over here where my edge of my material passes on there. So here's a great command that we looked at last time. Here's trim, TR, space bar. I click this guy, and I'm going to trim that line out. Oop, never mind. Let's try that again. Trim. Pick that guy. That's the edge I want to use to make the trim. So I've got my edge. I'm good. Now I hit space bar again. Now I trim that guy. So I'm going to trim again. Hit that, space bar, trim that guy. And I'm going to, because that's an edge with space behind it, I'm just going to make it an edge layer. So now I am going to check this out of the library, both layers. So I can check more than one book out of the library, one layer out of the library at a time. And there we go. So that's looking pretty good, but it's not yet perfect. If we were in class right now, I would call on a member of the audience to tell me what doesn't look great. But what my eye is picking up is this little sliver of line there, right? So this is that inside corner, which goes on the 3D light layer. So I think that's what I called it. So that is this little edge there. But because that corner is going away from me, that he or she does not want to go on edge, not on corner. No, they want to go on light. Oh no, but that layer is turned off. No problem. I can turn that layer on. Okay, so now we're all good. So that is the cube 3D line weight in a nutshell. It's been 22 minutes, and so I am actually going to leap into the Carpenter Center void so we can try and get some time on that. If there is time, I might come back to exporting this, but it's very similar to the previous previous lesson. But I can do a little quick, let's see, a little window so we can just see what this is going to look like when you export it, display a preview. And so there it is with the line weights. If you loaded the pen tables that I gave you, it should look like that. Again, just a little quick refresher on loading the pen tables. Here's the wrench, options, plot and publish, plot style table settings, add or edit plot style tables. Now I sent these plot styles out with the tutorial, so I have mine in my thing already, but if I didn't, I would go to where I downloaded it, which in my case would have been here, and I would take that folder, any tutorial, and then I would copy and paste that into there. I can copy and replace, that's fine. And then I would have that pen table loaded, which would be great. So I'm going to start a new file. And here we go. So to do this, I'm going to say open with no template imperial. This is really definitely diving into the void here. So we'll see what happens. Because you'll notice with this, I have no layers, nothing. So I have actually a little bit of an extensive layer list for this project, or for this drawing. I might just try and launch. What I'm going to do, I'm going to make a couple layers, and then I'll grab layers from another file just to keep things moving. So here, just to show the layer creation process again, 0 grid. That color wants to be dark gray. I'm just looking at my handout here. The line type on that is going to be a center line. So I'm going to load center line wherever you are. Thank you. Loaded, and then I'm going to make that part of that layer. So I'm just going to actually go through with that one layer. I mapped this out a little bit in a previous exercise, so I'm going to browse there, and I'm going to grab a bunch of information from there. I can actually control copy and pick something So this is actually maybe helpful for you guys. So what I did, I had this file already set up. I do a crossing menu, and I select the objects. If I type Control-Shift-C, and then what I can do is that tells the computer to copy that information. So then I can type my base point 0, 0, 0 if I want it to copy in the exact same location. So that's kind of handy. And then I can go back to the file I want to copy into. I type Control-V, and I type 0, 0, 0, and everything. Now everything pastes into place. What I'm also going to do to check that out, I type Z spacebar E for zoom extents, and now all that's showing up there, which is great. And what's also handy about that is all my layers are there as well. What I will also do is I will now just quickly load my pen tables again for this file, which is a different pen table. This one is tutorial 2 CC, which is in place already, so I don't need to copy and paste, but I will just copy and paste real quick. Open a new window. Why am I not seeing that? There we go. So NEU, this class, tutorials, today, Carpenter Center, tutorial, paste, just copy and replace. So now I've loaded that pen table. I'm kind of good to go. So one thing you'll notice too, if I flip between this file and the file I copied from, you see how the center lines are actually showing up properly here, and they're not showing up properly here? Well, if I zoom all the way in, oh my gosh, there they are. Awesome. But you know, that doesn't do me a whole lot of good when I want to print this at a larger scale. So there's a little interface here that you can tell AutoCAD what scale to display at. And we've been working with our hand drawings at 1/8 inch scale, so I'm going to change that to 1/8 inch. So now it says 1/8 inch scale. That's great. But it's still not showing up, right? So the other thing I need to do to make it show up is I type RE for regen, and that's going to redraw my whole screen. And now it's showing up properly. So that's great. So let me try something here. I'm going to just move this aside in case I need it. I'm going to move it over 750 feet. Someone remember that. Oh, you know what? Here's one thing I didn't do, though. I didn't set up my units, so it doesn't know what feet are. So I'm going to type units, go into my units, and I simply just change that to architectural. So you can have a file where you set all this stuff up ahead of time, so every time you open the file, you're already in architectural, you already have your CTV loaded. That'd be great. But now this knows what to do for feet, and across it goes. 750 feet, you're out of the way, it's copied, he's over there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the XL, the extension line. I'm going to set up a grid, and I'm just going to try and do it based a little bit on your dimensions. So hopefully you guys did some good dimensions, good measuring. So I'm going to type XL 0, 0, 0. Here's my extension line, X and Y. Awesome. So move that to layer grid, zoom out. And now, let's see, where did I hide those? Dun, dun, dun. Where's my folder? Did I close all my folders? I did. Okay. Hold on a second. All is not lost. So here are some dimensions that people have grabbed from my studio. Some of these are looking pretty good, pretty helpful dimensions to have. Which we'll come back to these guys. Right now I'm going to look at the grid, my grid people, and kind of grab some of these dimensions. So here we have 1310, 1310, 14, 14. So I will launch into that. I'm just going to start from that corner over. So I might move this even more, do a full 250 feet. And I will offset 13 feet, 10 inches. Select that guy, offset it again. And then, whoops, they're telling me 14 feet. So away I go again, offset 14 feet. Here we go. 1, 2. What else we got? So we got a big space in here. I'm going to guess from prior knowledge, this is just me, that there are, oh, well, here's a good little clue. Here's a good little thing to do. You'll notice what I did in this file was I started to label and number my grid lines. That became super helpful because when I get into here, I'm like, oh my gosh, where am I? I get lost. I get very lost in that middle of the grid thing. So I'm actually going to do the same thing here. So I draw a line. I'm actually going to trim my extension line. Whoops, TR, pick my extension line, trim those guys out. You see how I did that? That was a little quick. I'm moving pretty quickly because there's a lot to cover, and I just want to try and get there if we can. So type in trim, selecting that line. And now if I cross, you know, I'm doing the corner cross thing here, that trims all those guys out. Just as a compare contrast, if I trim and I do that, oh, look, it does it now. Huh. See, I haven't used 2013, so like I'm working with a different AutoCAD mindset. This is great. So I'm going to type a circle, or make a circle, type C. Now for a radius, I'm going to try 36, see what that does. That's pretty good. If I wanted it to be a little bigger, I could actually do something called a scale. So I type SC, I select the object. And just notice, you know, every time I select something, this whole right to left clicking thing is just like totally in my DNA now. If I have a child, they will come out doing right to left clicking. It's kind of sad. So, but if I want to scale this guy, I hit scale, select that guy, and then I can scale it by a factor of 2. I can scale it by a factor of 0.25. So what I did with that was I type scale. I select the object, type scale. This is my center point around which I want to scale it. So you notice it's scaled up from that center point. If I scaled from a different point, say there, and I scaled by 2, well, let me try that again. Scale, select object, select point, unknown command 2. Select object, scale. All right, I'll select this point, specify base point. Scale factor 2. Okay, this is scale 2. That did it. Let's try this again. Scale, base point. Scale factor ignored. Okay, you know what? You get this point of scale. You can figure that one out for me and get back to me. So I'm going to trim that guy out of that circle because I don't want it. I'm going to do some text, which actually we found out we can just type T for text. Make my little text box. Woo, that is small text. So I'm going to change that. If my thing there is 36 inches, maybe I'll make my text 36 inches. See how that works. And then I'll just type A, capital A. So there we go. That was a beautiful letter A. So I'll edit this guy because that is not a beautiful letter A. And I can do, you know, kind of little text editing paragraph stuff there. And so this is some stuff that we covered before. I won't go into details. Whoops. I don't want that. I want Swiss 721 CNBT. Where are you? There you go. Okay. So, and so I can then, you know, just copy this over and bada bing, bada boom. And this is one of those things that someone was mentioning, Revit today, and Revit will do nice quick grids for you, but this is a good way to sort of get the concept down. B, caps lock B, and C, and so on and so forth. I won't go through the rest of it, but you can get the sense of it from there. So now I go back to this this drawing here, and I get 25.6, 25.6, 25.6. So I'm going to go with that, and I'm going to, I might just stretch this guy down to here. And now I'm going to offset 25 feet 6. There we go. And so on and so forth. And so this is kind of like what you were doing with your trace paper. And so one of the things you might do with your notes is actually give your grid line labels on your notes so you can keep track of them as you go. And so how many do I have? I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And now those change to 30 feet. So the 25, 6, I have 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, I have 1, 2, 3. I need one more. 3, 4. Okay. Now right now, I'm just going to stick with this little zone and see what we can do with that. So I'm going to trim these guys out. And just give myself a little space to work in here, because I want to start to get my columns in, and get some other stuff going. I'm going to go to a layer for columns. And again, the Carpenter Center has different size columns, as we can see, 16, 18 inches, 20 inches. I like the 18-inch, so I'm just going to do an 18-inch, and I'll do that, and then you guys can, make them the proper dimensions based on the proper location. So if this is A, B, so C and D have 2 columns there. So I go A, B, I'm going to copy over C, D. Okay, get rid of that guy. And so then that guy comes down. So actually column line C has 1, 2, 3. He goes all the way down. So we will just grab him. And so again, this is just like with the axon. I am copying. And then I'll copy this guy down. Here we go. There we go. Oh, I think I got a little overzealous there. And then these 2 guys go over too. So I'm going to copy those over. And so, I mean, you're getting the picture, I hope, that this is you're going to build up your grid, right, after that. So you're going to build up your columns onto your grid. So once you, maybe I should save this. I'll call this to be in class. Oh. So the next point are the walls. And one of the points I made to my class is that the walls with the Carpenter Center are, they tend to fall off the column grid. So they're not snapping into the grid as much as they are falling off it. So this little dimension in here is what's really important. These little offset dimensions are really important. So if you haven't gotten those yet, get them. And let's see if I can pick any up here. There's a little one. See that right down there? Oh my gosh. 12 inches. And that's probably from the face of the column. And is this side? This is on the other side, but I'm just gonna go with it for now. So what I would do in that case is, let me just kind of see how I can fake this. So if I want, I'm gonna pretend that this corner is what we were just looking at. So I'm going to just draw this line here. I'm on my columns layer, but that's okay. So it's off the face of that. Ideally, you want those dimensions from the center line. So if you can get those or intuit those, that would be best. But you can do it this way. So I just offset that line 12 inches. And I'm just going to use this dimension down there for this line. So again, I'm not trying to draw the exact object for you. That's your job. I'm just trying to show some techniques for this. So, so there's my column layer, my wall, and I'm going to now change the layer to that wall. The other thing that happens in this space, as we know, is there's let's see if anyone picked that up on these drawings. There's this wall that runs all the way along here. Now it looks like, so these are the people trying to tie these dimensions together, which is great to see. So that looks like a 17. I'm going to go with that. And let's see. Yeah, so, and that happens off of column line C. So I might take this and just move it over one bay. Hopefully this doesn't confuse you too much. So I got 17 inches off of there. Whoop. Let me see, my computer is... So I'm doing this wall because this wall is a kind of helpful element in doing the sections that you're asked to do. So now this wall is not a cut, it's an edge because we're looking down at it. So I'm putting it on to edge. And I don't know the exact extent of it, so I'm just going to drag it down to a certain point, a certain direction, dimension. And then I'm just going to kind of draw a line in here to close this guy. So here's a command actually that I will hopefully get to in a little more detail, but it's called fillet. So you see how these two lines coming together are, one's a little long. So if I type F and I hit this guy and I hit that guy, it makes a clean corner there. The other way that this comes in handy is I can give a radius to the fillet. So I type F, I type R, space bar, and say I type 24. It's going to, you see how this little guy pops up? It's giving me a little radius to that turn, which is pretty handy. And I'll show you how that comes in handy later. Just for now, I just use it to clean up a corner. So I'm just going to zoom in on this little space here and draw a kind of quick section line for you. And what I might do is to try and fill out the picture. Whoops, look at that. That's beautiful. All right, hold on. So I'm going to zoom extents to get things back in order here. I'm going to flip back to the sort of more filled in version that I had here. And I'm going to grab some elements that I had used previously to kind of help move this along. And those elements are going to be this overhead lobe, this wall, and what I might do, and here's a kind of handy little thing. I'll just grab these columns for the heck of it. I'll grab these grid lines again for the heck of it, and I will grab these grid lines. But I'm going to do that copy thing again. So I'm actually going to go Control-Shift-C all at once, or I think in Macs it would be Apple-Shift-C. I'm going to pick this point. So rather than typing 0, 0, 0 and getting it right where I want, or getting it right in the same place, if I pick a point on that, in that file, then I can come back to this file, and I can go Control-V, and now, see this guy? He's floating around, waiting for me to tell him where to go. And so if I put him right there, he shows up in the right reference point. That's pretty cool. So the reason I did that is I want to get this whole pit that we know is over here. So I'm going to draw a line here, and I'm kind of running on the back edge of some time here, so I'm going to try and just get this pretty quickly if I can. So I'm trimming. I'll give a little narration as I'm doing. Now I'm matching properties, MA, match, match. So now this is the pit. This is the wall. We can pretend that this is the right location for the other wall. This is, if I stretch this, oh, here's another command, stretch. So I type S, space bar, and I do my little selection. And now I can stretch that element back this way if I want. And so now I move not only this, but I move the endpoints of these guys all to one place there. So I'm just doing this to make a little point here about the section cut very, very quickly. So now I'm just kind of free-forming this shape. Oh, one more. There we go. I'm going to match properties. I'm going to fill it. Now, my radius is still 20. Oh, no, my radius is 0 now, so that's good. So I'm going to fill it that, and I'm going to match properties. So my cut line, and I don't, I think the different instructors have a different take on the section cut line. I'm going to just do one kind of way of doing it, and you can kind of converse amongst yourselves. But basically, what I'm going to do is I know that this is kind of drops down maybe 4.5 feet at this edge, and I'm going to call it level with the interior. But then I know this is a slope, so I can actually draw a little line here, and I can maybe change that if I have an edge light, so that indicates that is a sloping sidewalk. And I know that slope comes up to here, and I will attempt to show a little bit of how you would draw that slope three-dimensionally. But so what I'm going to do is, and again, this is going back to a slide that I had shown in the previous lecture that I think I might still have up here. Might not be. Yeah, so I had shown you this slide here with the cross section, right? So it's the section over the plan. So this is actually an example of that for the hand drawing. My take on it is that I'm going to drop down. I'm going to go to a layer that I don't have here. So I'm going to make a new layer called 2, because it's 2D, 2 dash, I think, what did I call it? Section? Sect? So that's fine. Caps lock. S-E-C-T. It's continuous. I'm going to call it blue. OK. Close that out. So I'm going to first just draw my section line across here. Whoops, wrong layer. Change that layer. I'm going to match that layer to my active layer. I'm going to drop down, say 4.5 feet, 4.5 feet. I'm going to shoot across here to this point. And now this edge here is going to be actually higher than in here. So I'm going to just pretend that it's like, I don't know, a foot higher. And then it's going to come across, and then I'm going to pretend that this is back level with that space over there. So I'm going to stretch this back. And so this should give you, and I should have done that with a polyline. I didn't. I think that was a bunch of lines. But that gives you roughly a kind of contour through that ground plane, and that's overlaid. It's a little hard to see because it's blue. I'm just going to save that, and I'm going to see what that might look like if I export it. Let's see, go to Page Setup Manager, modify, load my pen table, say yes. OK, that's fine. And yeah, go to 11 by 17. Say OK, close. Then I'm going to say display window. I'm going to pick a window here. Display a preview. So you can see that that blue cut line is heavier than the other lines, and I have that pen table loaded. So we're running sort of short on time. I want to show a little bit of the ramp and the 3D projection, and also the lobes. But so let's see, how are we going to do this? I'll go to this file where things are more filled in, and what I can do is maybe show a little bit of the triangulation to locate the columns here. So if I just move these guys 50 feet, and I go to my dimensions that I've collected here. So I have here 149 and 147, roughly, I think. So if I make a circle here, that's 149, and I make a circle here, that's 147, I will get a intersection. So it doesn't agree with what I have there, but that's OK. And I'm going to move that column to that intersection. So something might be a little off there, but that's OK. And then what I'm also going to so that's a way to locate that column. Let's pretend, for instance, that column ended up here, so it was nice. I'm going to show you how I got this this curve there. So how that was done is through triangulation, say even the tree, you're able to set this point, and you're able to set these points down there. So then you do the again you do the fillet command, and you adjust the radius. So you type radius 20 feet or so, and you see that that's a little big, so I'm going to change my radius, and I can just keep typing different radii. 15 feet, still too big. Keep going down, 10 feet. So it's still getting too big. Oh, it's still on so I have to type R 10 feet. Let's see what that does. There we go. So that's a little better of a radius. So that gives me a nice clean curve. And then if I offset that, and if I extend this line to there, and I offset this, that same distance, it's going to give me offset. It's going to give me that curve in that right position, and it's going to make a nice smooth transition. So the other way I can apply that, and I'll show you in this version, where what I did was, to get these lobes, I took the dimensions of this file. So these were some really great dimensions that someone in my section got. I started with these dimensions, which were dimensions along the column line. So I'll turn, here's a command layer off. So I hit that layer with the light bulb and turn that off. So I started with these purple lines are the lines that I got from that first, from this first file. So it looks like there might have been some discrepancies. That's okay. And then what I did was I laid out the grid that was given me for these orange lines. And the way I did that was these people were kind enough to actually locate the location of that pattern off of the center line of those columns. So I actually had that concrete formwork pattern off of these guys, which was great. So these purple lines indicate where I then drew the dimensions to get a segmented line. So I'll turn that. I'll turn this off. I'll turn this off. And so eventually I got this kind of segmented line just connecting points, which was actually really helpful. Because then what I could do was I'm just going to make a new layer, a blank layer, I'm going to call it 5_test to show you guys this. And I'm just going to make it some crazy color. And I'm going to set it current. And so an important thing about these curves is that they're actually connections of straight lines. So if I estimate that curve, it's actually going to be along a straight line. And so I can actually fill it with larger radii to get that curve. So I'm going to type a radii of 30 feet, see what that gets me. So that's not quite big enough. So I'm going to type R again. I'm going to type 35 feet. And that's actually a little better. So that's giving me a nice kind of smooth curve for that. So that's how you get, or that's one way to get those curves for those lobes. So finally, what I want to get to is setting up for a little bit of three-dimensional projection for that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this grid here, or that setup here. I'm going to copy that. And I'm going to go back into this original file. I'm going to copy paste that. So I'm going to do the same thing that I did for the last cube, where I'm going to rotate this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to rotate it, I think, 60 degrees. We'll see if that. Oh, see, that was the wrong way. So I'm going to rotate it negative 60 degrees. Yeah. And so that's going to orient it long ways for me, so I can get the so I can fit this in pretty tightly, because I don't want to do the whole 45-degree rotation because it would be too distorted. So what I'm going to do for this is I'm going to pick this kind of 0, 0 point to then go up and down from. And the 0 point I'm going to pick is right at that corner where the ground drops away to the plaza below. I'm actually not going to use that line right now. And so then I can start to construct, and I'm going to use just layer 0 right now, but I can start to, again, construct vertical lines that will give me the right height there. So if I know, I think I have some, I might have dimensions on that. I might not, actually. No. So let's say that the difference that it drops there, I think we looked at this in class today, is probably about 3 feet maybe. So if I drop 3 feet and I go back here, that's starting to give me that slope. Now I also have a sense that, I turned that layer off. Oh yeah, I want this guy, sorry. So here's a handy command also called align. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to align this curve over to the orientation where I want it. So I type AL, whoops, AL, and I pick my source point, I pick my destination point, I pick my other source point, I pick my other destination point, and then I just right click until that line shows up where I want it. And then I close that line. I'm going to match that property. So if I say that this is 4.5 feet deep, I'm going to copy this down 4.5 feet. Whoop. My mouse moved, sorry. I'm going to copy that down 4.5 feet. And I can now sort of finish that space out, as you can see. And so what this is starting to do is it's starting to help me now construct this in 3 dimensions. And then I can also take my column grid and I can copy that down, 4.5 feet. And so those are the base of my columns. And you probably have measurements to the underside of the slab there, so you can then, I think it's probably around 14 feet or something, so you can also then go back up from that ground to the underside of the slab. So I'm going to copy that up 14 feet. And that will give me the underside of the slab, and I can copy these guys up there as well. And if I had, this drawn correctly, I could finish up that whole lobe. So now you can start to see the kind of 3-dimensional space starting to develop there. And so I can also copy the column here. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy this once up to 14 feet, and I will then kind of connect that with a line to finish out that column. And what I can then do is I can give this the line weight that I want. So to get that, I'm going to just go back to my file here and get all the 3D line weight that I want. And so those are all, the layers are all there now. So I'm going to pick these guys and I'm going to put them on 3, which is 3D edge. I can trim this. So here's the thing with trim. If I type TR and I hit my spacebar twice, I don't have to select anything to trim between. It automatically trims whatever I select. So that's a good little tool. So I'm going to type 3. I thought I had 3 edge light in there. So where is that? Oh, I had 2 edge light. I picked the wrong layer. Okay. So whoops. Where are we? Okay. So I'm going to put this on 2 edge light for now. But what I'm doing here is I'm just building up this column so you can just see the line weight on there. Ooh, excuse me, that means it's 7 o'clock. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to trim this out so I can now match properties with that. And then, I mean, this is maybe a slow way to do this, but then I trim here, move this back 36, and then I make this the 3 corner. So it's like the cube. And now this is a good 3D column that I can copy around in place. So I was hoping to cover the the ramp in 3D a little bit, but so I'm here. I'm floating around until I get that center point for the circle, so I can copy right to the circle. So if I go to the edge of the circle and I have my smart object snaps on, you'll see the circle lights up. So that's kind of handy. And so now I just have a field of columns in there, which is also handy. I'll show you like quickly how I constructed the ramp, at least in a sequence of steps. So basically using the slab heights, I traced around lines to get the up to the second story where I know the ramp lands, and then I also used a kind of baseline height. So in this instance, looking at, say, the first floor slab, measuring up to different points on the ramp, and then treating the ramp as a straight line, I took those other points, so I got a length. There's a command called length. So I have a center line here of the ramp after triangulating these guys. And you see these lines here. If I select those, I type LEN for length, and it gives me the length of that, which is 6 feet 8. It gives me the length of that, which is about 5'10". And so I basically copied this line, that dimension, to get that height, which I then copy those lines back into place, and I can then infer the slope of the ramp and use the fillet command to approximate a curve that would fit that slope. I know that's a little maybe convoluted, would be best explained step by step, but I just want to at least show that as an option. So finally, one question that might be a little more basic is how do you print this guy once you have your drawing all developed? So because the instructions are to print at 1 to 200, the way to set that up. Whoops, I did print. So you go to your output, you go to your page setup manager, you go to modify. So we're printing on 11 by 17. So you want to look at this dialog box called plot scale. So you unclick fit to paper, and then now it says 1 here. You type 200 for 200 units, and you can make a window of your file here, and you can see it's kind of just fitting on there. And then if you preview it, you can see it kind of just fits on that page, and you can try and position it a little or play around with that, but that's how you set up the 1 to 200 plotting. So I know that was a lot. Hopefully that maybe gives you some insight to the possibility that it can be done, and it will be done. Your instructors are all very well versed in this as well, so they will certainly be able to help you as well as the TAs. They will have a follow-up workshop, the TAs, on Thursday, I think from same time, 6 to 7. I think it'll be in the studio, but I'm going to have them follow up with an email to confirm location. So there are probably some good fundamentals that they'll be able to cover with you. They might have their own way of approaching something like the ramp, but I'll also maybe talk with them briefly to try and answer any questions about that, so we can maybe cover some of this in more detail. But I think I'm going to have to wrap that up for now. So thank you for your time, and I will see you all Thursday. Thank you.